my life. You and they to be my life, my life. You and they to be my life, my life. You and they to be my life, my life.
Hi everyone, this is LH and welcome back to The In-Between. I'm excited to do the second episode and hopefully many more to come. Today I want to talk about functioning in dysfunction and what that looks like when you're in the in-between. So my personal in-between is the transition phase that I'm in now. I am transitioning from a married individual to a single or divorced individual, as well as a single mother. I have two children, and it looks a lot different than it did before this phase of my life. And so adjusting to different things, being by myself, not having my kids all the time, all of that is wrapped up in this huge transition. Now, while this is the bulk of my in between stage, there are a lot of other little things that are happening. We had to move to Columbia for a year, so we're back in our area now. We are looking for a new home because we have to sell our house. My son has graduated from high school and is entering college. My daughter is, becoming a tweener and trying to figure out what direction she wants to go in. My parents are entering into a different phase in their life. They're becoming older. And so there's a lot of other little things that are coming, that are around the large transition. And what I've realized is I'm more than just who the person said I was. I'm a lot more. I'm a mother. I am a friend. I am a sister. I'm a cousin. I'm not a wife yet, but I'm taking applications. I am a daughter. I'm an auntie. I am an employee. And it's something that kind of excites me about the next phase of my life, that I am all of these things wrapped up into one person, and it's exciting. So if you're currently entering in the in-between phase and you find yourself feeling lost, discombobulated, you are confused, you are probably going to have to come to the grips that I am getting ready to transition. I don't know when, I don't know where, and I don't know how, but I can make it through. And I can tell you that because I'm making it through. There was a point in my life or the transition where I literally didn't want to get out of bed. When we had to move to Columbia during COVID, I literally stayed in my parents' house in a room, covers over my head. This is probably TMI. I didn't want to wash. I didn't want to put on anything. I didn't want to do my hair. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to talk anything. But a 5-year-old little girl came to me one day and said, "Mommy, you always tell me that God got this." And she was like, "So I'm telling you that God got this. So we're going to get up." And she pulled clothes out of the closet and she says, "We're going to do your hair. We're going to put on some lipstick. We're going to put on this outfit. And I want you to know that you are beautiful." 5 years old. And that was at that moment that I learned to function in this dysfunction. So this let me know, number one, the pain that I was feeling was really real, but that I was still alive. I was still alive, and I have this little person or two little people that I'm responsible for. And if I can't gather myself and get myself together, how are they going to make it? I have to be an example. Now, I didn't have the means to be really strong, but I had the strength that day to get up and, appease this little girl. And since that day, I will never forget it. And I often tell her this, that if it wasn't for your sunshine that day, I would still be in the darkness. And so if you have to, find someone that is going to be an encourager for you, then do it. If you don't, then that's what I'm here for. I know that the Lord placed me on this earth for this appointed time. I didn't know it was going to come through all of the hurt and all of the pain and the things that I had to go through, but I always knew that I was called to minister to women or to encourage women. And so I'm here for you. I want to be there for you just like people were there for me. And so the blessings of the Lord add no sorrow, and I'm here to be a blessing. So I think that's all. If you have comments about functioning in dysfunction, what those things are, the next episode, hopefully I can get a really good friend who is a certified therapist to talk to us about what dysfunction really is. And so we can learn about what to look for, what signs to look for. Until next time, I'd like to say, do not make your gray space your dead space. I want you to break out. I want you to emerge, and I want you to live again. A lot of times people think about what's happening in their in-between, and they get so accustomed to whatever's happening there that it becomes almost like normal life. And so I want to talk about what that actually looks like. I always like to come from the perspective of my own personal experience. So for me, that looked like allowing certain things to happen that aren't necessarily positive things, as a matter of fact, or maybe negative things, and just allowing those things to happen and not thinking twice about, well, is this something that is benefiting me? Is this something that's going to hurt me? Is this something going to help me? And asking myself those probing questions in order to figure out what's going on. So in my transitions, and I've had many life transitions, but in my transition, I just remember allowing people to say things to me that were hurtful. They were demeaning, diminishing my self-worth, my self-esteem. And so when I say allow, it wasn't something that I just opened the door for. You get to a place in the in-between, or that gray area, you get to a place where you're almost numb or paralyzed. And so when you are hearing these things, you're not actually soaking those things in, you're not absorbing those things. And so your body, your mind, and everything else becomes numb. And so I think for me, hearing some of the things that people say to me today, it sometimes shocks me because it's positive things or affirming things. And I think to myself, when I was in my transition or my in-between stage, was I not that same person that I am today, that people have all the accolades that they tell me about today? But it's not that. It's just that I was numb in the situation, and I was trying to block everything out and just survive. So let's talk about that. Survival. You get to a point or a place in your transition period where you're just trying to keep your head above water. And so, like I said, the things are coming at you sometimes at a fast pace, whether it's demeaning words about yourself, whether it's financial withholding. It may be something as small as controlling what you wear. And so when these things are coming at you, you don't have time to think about, is this something that's right? And like I said before, is this going to be hurtful, harmful, or is it going to be helpful? So what I want to hear is some feedback about those things. And you guys can comment and let me know when you were in your in-between stage, or if you're currently in that in-between stage, what are some things that you've recognized that you've let go or let pass through that probably has affected who you are right now? And so I know for me, after hearing those things, I started to kind of think about myself at a different light. So one of the things that I did is I went back to, I'm a writer by nature, and so I write poetry. So I went back to some of the poems that I wrote in that transitional stage, and I looked at those things really carefully, and I carefully studied the words that I said, and I read them out loud. And the one conclusion I came to was, this chick is crazy. And I said that to myself because it hearing that brought everything that I had been through, the transition, the dark places, it brought it to reality. And so once you face that reality, I think it's easier to kind of start breaking down the walls and moving forward to a better or healthier place. So find something that takes you back to that point where you were right before the in-between stage, or before you even, enter the in-between stage, and something sort of like a happy place. Find something that had you in a better space and revert back to that. Like I said, for me, it was my poetry. I went back, I read those things out loud, and I came to my conclusion, and I said it out loud so that I can put it out there that this was my reality. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how did you move forward after you faced the fact that I'm really in transition? It was very difficult. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I put one foot in front of the other and I just took off running into that next phase or to become the person that I am today. Definitely not. I still went through periods of darkness, periods of downtime, but I do something in my life that's similar to something I saw in a movie called Baby Steps. But it's similar to that, where I'm just like, okay, I can get through this next minute, or I can get through this next hour. Okay, this is Wednesday, I can get to Thursday. And I talk myself through that next step. So that's just something that I did, but I'd love to hear about some things that you did to try to move forward out of your transition. Now, I will say that I don't think that people are fully out of transition ever, because I believe God takes us from glory to glory. And so in order to move, we've got to do some transitioning. So I think I said in my last episode that change is inevitable. And so we have to start preparing ourselves for that change. So think about some things that you can implement to try to move you forward. And you don't have to go at a road runner's pace. Pace yourself, take it slowly, take care of yourself in the pace, and then move forward. I think another thing that I thought about when functioning in dysfunction is, how is that affecting those around you? For me, as I look back on it, I see the impact that it had on like my children. While I was in the dysfunction, I didn't realize how much they were being affected by that, by my decisions of letting things go or brushing things off my shoulder. Yes, they tell us, be strong. And I'm going to say specifically sometimes for Black women, they just automatically assume that we can handle the mantle that's placed on our shoulders. But everybody has a weak moment. But I will say that look at the people around you, whether it's your kids, whether it's, your parents, whether it's friends, family members. I don't care if it's the dog, but look at how your functioning in this dysfunction affects others. So like I said, I look at my kids and the way that they are now, as opposed to me like handling and juggling things in the transition phase, is completely different. I recently apologized to my son for not being, for not standing up for him like I should have throughout my transition. And I tried to break it down to him that, I was broken. I was in a dark place. I was in a somber place. And so I didn't have enough strength to fight for myself, more or less fight for, my son or my daughter. And so I really want you to think about, when you're in that transition or that in-between space, how is your being paralyzed or functioning in this dysfunction? How is that affecting those that are around you?
You and they to be my life, you and they to be